Hey guys, kinggath here with another patch for Sim Settlements 2. This is patch 1.0.11, which I'm calling the performance menu. Now, it's obviously called that because I want to draw your guys' attention to the performance menu, which is something that's been severely lacking in SS2. It was a big thing in SS1, and it's finally getting its due restoration, and we'll talk about what that entails, and we'll also talk about why these three particular buildings are in front of me in just a moment. First, we've got to thank some patrons. So you guys have been joining up Patreon and making this project dream come true. You guys are funding the development of some really cool stuff. We're very, very excited to have you guys, and I want to give a shout out and thanks to a handful of you who've joined up recently. As always, if I don't get to you today, if you recently signed up, don't worry, I'll get to you in an upcoming video. So thank you, and shout out to Steven, Abomination Ham, Connor and Alexandra, Eddie CH, James Hudson, Tristan Head, and Trevor Stocks. And I don't think I stumbled on anybody's name there, so something's wrong. I must have butchered somebody's in some other way. Maybe it's Stefan instead of Steven. I don't know. But all right, let's get into the patch video here. So we've got two things to talk about. One is really small. I'll just cover that quickly. Why are these three buildings in particular? Well, if you have any of these, go ahead and refresh them. Now, if you're a vet of Industrial Revolution, you'll know that these each had a little secret in each of them, and that was not working with SS2, and now all three of them have been fixed. So their little secrets are restored. They're not big deals. They were a bigger deal during Industrial Revolution because they were often tied to things that had to do with the tech tree, but we restored their little basement cells so that you can once again get access to them just for fun. Maybe we'll hide some secrets in there another day. For now, it was just restoring functionality that was there that just wasn't quite working because the teleport system was a little funky. In fact, that same teleport system was also used for some of our custom cells during our quest lines, and we had reports of some people finding that dog meat was suddenly stuck in the Vault Tech underbasement and things like that, and that should be resolved as well. Now, if you already had that issue, you will need to use some sort of console commands or something to port those stuck companions out of there, or some sort of tool. I assume that on Xbox somebody by now has created like a holotape mod that lets you summon any companion to you, because even outside of what we did in here, it's very easy to have companions end up lost in the ether in this game, just by the nature of how it's designed. But let's get into the meat of the patch, and that is the performance menu. So some of you guys have seen this, some of you haven't. Either previously there was only one option in it, but now that city plans are coming out fervently, in fact, if you'd like to vote on the first city plan contest for Sim Settlements 2, that voting is going on now. Just go to simsettlements2.com/vote. See, this is what we get when we put me in game and record live instead of on a script. Yeah, I just get distracted all over the place. I'm going left, right, and center. So let's open up the menu before I get any more distracted about other things and talking about city plans and stuff. Let's go to the Sim Settlements 2 section. Now, if you are using Xbox or on PC without MCM, you can find these exact same settings in the City Manager holotape. But if you go down to performance under the menu, you will see that there's all these new things. Now, previously only respect build limit was here, and I'm going to talk about that one because it's going to be pretty important with this patch. So one of the things that was not happening prior to this patch was that city plans were ignoring this setting no matter what. They would always just build whatever was available. Now they are actually going to impact the build limit, and they will care whether or not you have this option on. Now, almost every single city plan will go over the build limit. This is just the nature of when you add in plots and things that they start to push the limit on the build limit. So if you're on PC, you're on a decent system, you're going to want to go in and immediately turn this off, or alternatively, you can go up to the workbench and individually increase your build limit. Now, the reason that this setting is on the way it is by default is because for people who are new to Sim Settlements, who don't know about this, we don't want Sim Settlements pushing their system past its prime and then not being able to go into their settlement anymore because there'd be just too many items created. So most of you guys who've been playing this game for a long time, you know how much your systems can handle in all your settlements. And so if you want to leave that respect build limit on and individually change settlements, you can use the workshop framework built-in system. If you go to manage here and then you go to configure build limits, you can just increase it, just bump it by a little bit at a time with one of these options here. And you can do that as many times as you need to. But basically, city plans and plots will not build if you are at the build limit, and the build limit is that meter in the top right hand corner there. So if you find that you're getting things stuck, things aren't building, whether it be plots or city plans refusing to upgrade, could be that you're at the build limit. And so I wanted to point out that performance option, that if in general you just don't care, you got a beefy PC, you can just turn off that respect build limit, and then Sim Settlements will build regardless of whether you're at the limit. But just know that prior to this patch, city plan placed items were not impacting the build limit, and so now they will. And so this is going to have a pretty substantial impact. I imagine we'll get tons of reports after this patch about things being broken in city plans, and it's not actually the case. That's actually how it was always meant to work. But because we didn't have levels until the recent release of ROTC, it was just we just never noticed that that was missing. So that has been resolved. Now, in addition to that, we also wanted to help those of you guys who are having performance struggles and get back this series of options here. So in SS1, we always had this, and what this would do is allow players to control what types of items were spawned on plots and city plans. Now, not every item of that type will necessarily work because it requires that the creator of the building plan or of the items in the city plan, and most of them we handle that, but some people can use city plan items themselves, have to tag those items with these appropriate things. So we've grouped up a lot of city plan items from the WRK to match these already, but I'm sure we've missed plenty. And with plots, it's up to the individual building plan authors to go through and tag all of their items. Now, all of this is explained in the documentation for building plan authors, and I think most of them generally do. Now, unfortunately, with SS2, when we ported all the building plans forward from SS1, all of our data on this stuff had been originally lost. Fortunately, Rudy, a long-standing member of the community, jumped in and re-tagged all those items for us, which is what sparked me to go actually put this stuff back in SS2. I didn't want to have these settings and have them not impact the base building plans with SS2, which is what most people are going to be playing with out of the box. So now that we've restored that, you can expect these to work at least with the base SS2 building plans and with our city plans. And then going forward, if the authors of building plans have not done this yet, I assume this video will spark them to go find out how to do so if they hadn't already done so. But if they'd already done it, then this will suddenly impact those. Now with city plans, again, most of that is on our team's side. We take care of that since most items are inside of our Wasteland Reconstruction Kit, and we will tag those items, and that will automatically apply to the city plan. So city planners, don't worry, you don't have to go tagging items. That's something that has to be done at the mod level of the actual items. So for the most part, it's on the SS2 team to handle that. So what do these basically do? By turning them off, it does not hide those items. It does not get rid of those items. It will just prevent them from spawning in the future. So basically, if you're about to start using SS2, you know you have performance problems on your system, you could start turning some of these things off before you start using city plans and plots to help improve performance. So I'm going to talk about each of these, and I'm going to first say that the two with the highest impact, the two that will have the biggest change for you, are going to be Clutter and Extra Lights, because Clutter tends to be a large number of the items, and extra lighting is one of those intensive things on your system. So if you find that you're having FPS troubles, these are the two I would recommend you disable to start. But if you're just having trouble across the board, or if you're on like an original Xbox One or a really low NPC, it might be advantageous to just uncheck all of these or turn them all off, because that will just reduce the number of items that SS2 is managing, which is obviously going to be a boon to your system resources. So animated objects are going to be literally that. They're items that are moving around. They're items that have some sort of animation to them. There's a lot of those in Industrial Revolution, things like moving treadmills or like the oil well, things like that. And this will turn those off. Now, in our buildings, we tried to always find a static replacement for them and put that in so that it would get placed automatically in its stead. Now, if you are an add-on pack author and you've got objects like this where turning them off would be a big problem for the design of your building, to where all of a sudden you would have a big gaping hole in it, feel free to ask on the developer Discord, and we can show you how you can arrange for replacement items for some of these sorts of things if you want to add that support. Animation markers are going to be those little blue men markers where NPCs can interact with them, not necessarily the markers that the settlers will use themselves on the plots, but more of those blue man ones. Now, this can apply to anything on a plot, because the building plan authors get to decide what an animation marker is. But this is mostly concerning the blue man markers placed by city plans. Clutter would be any of the generic things that sit on top of countertops and stuff, loose cans and bottles and decorations, things like that. That's going to be clutter. Extra lights, that tends to be those lights that if you go into workshop mode, a little light bulb appears. They're kind of invisible lighting that just floats in the air, as opposed to lights that have a physical lamp or something to them. But again, it's up to the city plan or the building plan authors to decide what is an extra light. So for our building plans, we tend to target those types of lights, those ones that don't have a direct source, but on occasion we would also target some of those that weren't required to light the plot decently, is how we kind of made that determination. So you might find little detailed lightings, like little tiny light bulbs that were just extra flavor, might have been removed when you turn this off. Pardon me, need to drink water there. All right, next up is high poly models. This is one where I don't think we use it much on the SS2 team, but it was placed there because there are some add-on pack buildings who know that they have very high poly models, and this allows them to set those to be turned off. Again, in the same way as the animated objects, this might require them to create alternate versions that are replaced. So if you find sudden holes in your building plans after placing some of these, it might be that the authors need to do some adjustments. And again, you guys are authors out there who are using these settings. Feel free to reach out if you need more assistance in that regard. NPCs are going to be spawned NPCs. These could be like the animals that often appear on agricultural plots. These could be things like the visitors and other markers that can be placed by city plan authors. Any of those types of objects that will spawn some sort of NPC. Radios, this isn't going to have a noticeable performance effect necessarily, but for some of you, especially those who like to stream, you might want to eliminate random audio sounds and radios that could have music playing on them from appearing on your plots, and that's what this is for. Sound emitters would be the little various sounds. You might not even know that you have them in some of your settlements, but we use them quite frequently in the city plans, especially those that are high up. We'll add the wind effects and things like rickety wood and things like that. And you'll notice them when you go into workshop mode, they'll appear as a little green speaker floating in the ether, and you can prevent these from being spawned. Special effects are going to be things like fire and smoke and dripping water, things like that. Those can be turned off. And then water planes, this is a unique one in that it's not necessarily performant, but it can solve a little bit of a problem. So with a water plane, that's basically just the idea of something that looks like makes it look like, say, there's water in a bathtub or in a bucket or something. The problem with the way water works in the creation engine is that everything below that water plane is then submerged. So if you're building plots up in a stack and one of them has a water plane, everything below that will end up with that water. So if you walk through that area underneath, so say you've stacked 3 plots together and the top plot has a water plane in it, and then you walk into either of the second plots that are below it, your screen will go as if you're swimming in water because you happen to walk underneath of a water plane. It's just a weird quirk with the creation engine. And so for this reason, we set that up so that those could be disabled. So if you find that you like to work vertically and you're starting to run into that problem, you could turn these off. Now, I mentioned before, this only changes the spawns that will happen after the fact. This does not impact things that have already spawned, but with plots or city plans, if you turn some of these off and then refresh those particular things, refresh those plots or refresh that city plan, it will, when it rebuilds everything, it will eliminate those items from being recreated. So you can use this in combination with refresh to get the same impact as if you originally had these turned on or off. So again, I would say low NPC Xbox users, go ahead and turn all of these off. And original Xbox users, I think any of the new Xboxes or even the Xbox Series, it's all confusing which names. What a terrible idea they did with their naming system, because they came out with those two new series of Xboxes, and now they've got the new one that's called Series. I don't know what the hell anything's named. I just know they're the old X and S are pretty decent at handling SS2, and then the new ones are super good at handling it, whereas the original Xbox One with no letters on it was problematic, and that's the one you'd want to turn all this off on. And then for PC users who've got a good stable system, I would probably turn respect build limit off and just let SS2 build whatever the heck it wants, and you should be fine there. So this is the menu I wanted to draw attention to, hence the patch name. There's obviously lots more in the patch, mostly in the form of bug fixes. This was a big bug fix patch series. I know this has been quite a delay because I went on vacation and then I got sick, so had quite a delay between patches, but during that same time, I basically just did the same amount of work as I would have done in a 2-week period because I wasn't working while I was sick. And the rest, almost the entire rest of the team, with a few exceptions, have moved on to Chapter 2 content. We're slowly grinding away. So this patch is probably seems light given that we've had a month to work on it. But in reality, I'm the primary person who works on patches. And so I only had 2 weeks. But guys, this still has some major stuff in it with the performance settings. That'll be a huge impact for some of you guys on low-end systems. And obviously, bug fixes are always welcome. So if you are looking for a particular bug fix that you don't see in the patch notes, definitely head to the simsettlements.com forums, post it there, and we will get it added up to the queue. I wouldn't say I'm in real time fixing bugs, but I'm fixing them at a much more rapid pace than ever before. And we've got a wonderful team of community members who have been relaying those to me so that we can keep up to date on them. But All right, and of course, my favorite part of patch day, we have got to give away our merch. Now, I'm saying merch and not t-shirt because we've got more merch now. We've got a coffee mug up there. We've got, I think, a backpack, something like that, notebooks. So we got some extra stuff. And basically what we're going to do now is just, and we've always been doing it this way, just we never set it on, but we've just been tossing whoever gets chosen for this. We just give them a $20 gift certificate to go use on the site and buy whatever the heck they want. So we'll continue to do that. So you guys can get whatever merch you want. And I'm going to do 2 this week since we skipped a patch cycle. So we're going to go with hashtag double merch. So if you're interested in scoring some merch, leave a comment below. Make sure you put more in your comment than just this hashtag, but include hashtag double merch, DOUBLEMERCH. Hopefully Luke will put that on screen so so everybody knows how to spell it. And just post something down there. Put a funny story about SS2. Tell me something you love about it, something you hate about it. Tell me a bug report. Just something interesting so it's fun to read through all these comments. And hashtag double merch if you're interested in scoring some SS swag. All right, guys. Take care and enjoy the mods.